Okay, so I have a question for you guys. What do you get when you have a super savory gravy plus a perfectly cooked hamburger patty? And right on top of that is a crispy fried egg with a runny yolk. That, my friend, is called a Loco Moco. Let me show you how to make it. So let's start out with these two. The first one I'm using are mushrooms, and all I'm doing is just cutting off the end where it could be kind of tough, and then I'm just gonna take it and slice it down into thin slices. I don't really have a particular measurement, but just as thin or as thick as you want. And for the onions, I'm using half a medium onion, and I'm just gonna go ahead and slice it down. Not too thin, but definitely not thick. I am thinly slicing a stalk of green onion or scallions or spring onions, depending where you're from. And this is completely optional, but I quite like having it as a garnish, so that's why I'm slicing it up. Now for the key ingredients of this Loco Moco, the ground beef. I am using an 80-20 mix. You can use a leaner one if you want, you can use a fattier one, but try to look for a fattier mix. And all I'm doing is seasoning it with some salt and some pepper. And along with those, I am also going to season it with a little bit of garlic powder. Also some mushroom powder, some soy sauce, some Worcestershire sauce, and lastly some onion powder. All of these measurements will be in the description box below. And now with my hands, I'm just going to go ahead and mix this up and make sure that the seasoning is evenly distributed. And then once it is and it looks roughly something like this, I'm going to go ahead and form it into two patties. And the way I'm forming it is I'm making sure that the center is a little thinner than the outside, because when it cooks, it will puff up in the middle. So keep that in mind. To actually cook these patties, I'm going to go ahead and heat a skillet on medium-high heat, and I'm going to drizzle some oil in it. And as soon as it gets ripping hot, I'm going to throw my patties in and just leave it to cook on that one side for about 2 to 3 minutes, because I really want a nice sear on this and to develop a little bit of fond at the bottom of the pan for the gravy later. After about 3 minutes, the gray on the side has gone up about halfway, maybe a little bit more, and I have developed a nice sear on that one side. So now I'm going to go ahead and flip it over and just leave it to cook for another 2 or 3 minutes. So depending on how much you trust your ground beef, you can cook it more medium or more rare if you want. But if you don't really trust it, then I would suggest cooking it well done. That will be up to you. But once it has cooked through, go ahead and take out the patties and reserve it on a plate. Now, if you only have about 2 tablespoons of grease in your pan, then just go ahead and leave it. But I have a lot, as you can see. So I'm just going to strain out most of the grease and leaving about 2 tablespoons worth in the pan. And you do want to use the grease or oil that's left in your pan, because that's where all the flavor is going to come from when you cook the onions and the mushrooms, which essentially will become your gravy. And speaking of that, go ahead and dump in your mushrooms and your onions into that pan with the reserved fat, and just go ahead and cook that until your veggies are nice and soft and they start picking up a little bit of color. Your mushrooms and onions are done when they look something like this, nice and dark and soft. Now would be the time to add in your stock. Go ahead and add in everything. I don't know why, I only added about half of it. But once you do have your stock in, make sure to deglaze the bottom of the pan using a spatula, scraping up all the brown bits on the bottom to make sure that all of that is in your stock, which will then become flavoring for your gravy. And if you skip that and you don't scrape it up, you won't have a gravy that has a lot of depth of flavor. So if you haven't already, go ahead and add in the rest of your stock. You don't have to pour it in parts like I did. You can just add it in one go in the beginning. Now you're gonna bring it up to a boil, and once it is at a boil, go ahead and give it a taste for seasoning. So all of these seasonings will be dependent on how salty your stock is, but I'm gonna go ahead and add in a little bit of soy sauce and a pinch of salt, and then as much pepper as you would like. So I like a lot of pepper, so I'm going in with a lot of pepper. So now I'm gonna go ahead and add in my cornstarch slurry. I like to add in about half of it first just to see where the thickness is, because it's easier to add in more cornstarch slurry than to add in more liquid. And since this is a gravy, you're aiming for a gravy consistency. So if it's not thick enough, you can go ahead and add in the other half of it, which I did here. And make sure to let the broth come up to a boil again when you add in the cornstarch slurry, because that heat is what's going to allow the cornstarch to thicken up your gravy. And without the heat, the cornstarch will never get thick. Once my gravy is thickened, I'm going to go ahead and shut off the heat and add back in my hamburger patties just to warm it through. And if there's any juices on the plate, then go ahead and dump that into your sauce as well. But let's move it aside to cook the last component. I've heated a pan on medium-high heat and I put in a drizzle of oil. I apologize that it's blurry. I don't know why the camera wasn't focusing. But to this pan, I'm going to go ahead and crack in my eggs. I'm looking for a crispy sunny side up, so that's where the whites are actually nice and crispy and the yolks are still runny. If you don't like it like this, you can cook it longer, or you can cook the eggs to however you like. But to ensure that the whites will cook faster than the yolks, I like to take the oil and baste it on the whites. This will make the whites crispy and it won't allow the yolks to overcook. But once they are done and they are crispy like this, go ahead and take it out of the pan so that we can go ahead and assemble our Loco Moco. So on the plate with a bed of rice, I'm going to go ahead and top it with my hamburger patty that has been soaking in that gravy, and I'm just going to spoon on as much gravy as I would like. Once that is done, delicately place the sunny side up egg on top of the Loco Moco. And then just garnish it with a little bit of that scallions from earlier, and when it looks like this, it is time for the taste test. Oh my god, I can't wait to dig into this. I mean, as I was cooking this, the smell of this just hit me so hard. Like the smell of the onions and the mushroom cooking in that sauce, it was like the most savory smell ever. Of course, when you cook a beef patty, it's gonna smell good. It's gonna smell like burgers. And then that crispy fried egg with the runny yolk. Oh. Alright, so let's just give this a try. Now, let me try to get a great bite. Alright, here you go. Here's the bite. Alright. Cheers. Oh my god, that is so good. I mean, I don't know. I'm speechless. Look at that. That's how good it is. The gravy is super savory from the mushroom and the onions that cooked in that fond from the pan. And then, of course, the patty seasoned so perfectly, and the creamy egg yolk just like it's a cherry on top. Or I guess you can say the egg on top. So, if you like this video, hit that like button below. Make this and let me know how it goes in the comments below. And for more videos like this, hit the subscribe button or that one right there. Or for my previous video, you can hit that one right there. And I will catch you on the next one. Thank you. Bye.